Welcome to Real Estate Agent Superstars. I'm your host, RJ Baxter with Intercap Lending, and I have got a spectacular guest for you today, Chelsea Steen of Your Castle Real Estate. Chelsea, in a short period of time, has taken her business to incredible levels, and she's going to share with us her successes and what she's done to get there. So welcome to the show, Chelsea.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. How did you get involved with this crazy business? How did you start off as a real estate agent?
Yeah, so back when I was in college in Cleveland, I needed money. So I started a painting company and started working on houses at the age of 19. After about 8 years, I got kind of sick of changing the color of someone's dining room and realized, hey, houses are a really great investment. And I wonder if I can get into this and kind of show people how to use this tool. So I moved out to Colorado and simultaneously got licensed. So that's kind of how it began.
Okay, awesome. And how long ago was that? When did you get started as an actual?
So I started part-time in 2017. There's like a 2-year period that I was still running my painting company and getting it sold and consulting for the new owner. So I went full-time in January of 2020.
Okay, wow. And in that short period of time, tell us where your business has gone.
Yeah, it's been wild. January of 2020 ended up being an interesting time to get into the business, as a couple months later, COVID occurred and I wasn't even allowed to show houses. So that was interesting. But my first year I ended up selling 7 million. My second year I did 17. My third year, which was last year, I did 25, brought on a full-time assistant and 4 agents.
Wow. That's incredible growth. So I think there's a lot of agents that got involved during COVID, just started off as a real estate agent and maybe haven't had as much success as business has gotten harder over the last year. What have you done to sustain your success?
Yeah. Have you ever read the book, The Compound Effect?
Yes.
Yeah. So that book, I think I read really early on into getting into real estate, and it was the perfect book for me to read. I was very much so kind of an all or nothing person before. And reading that book kind of changed the way I went about starting this business. So it was very slow and steady. And for those who haven't read the book, it essentially talks about how small, consistent efforts over time will have a greater return than large efforts kind of as one-offs. So I started to really build my business. I had an education focus to start. Began teaching home buying 101 classes as I got kind of my website and my back end and all of those things up and running. And then I just wanted to be consistent with each one. So I chose time increments that made sense for me to be posting at or writing blog posts at. And then it was just kind of a slow and steady build. Well, it doesn't sound slow and steady, but on the back end of things, it was relatively slow and steady.
Slow and steady.
Yeah.
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 I hear you.
Yeah.
So you started teaching the Home Buyer 101 class.
Yeah.
Was that an immediate success, or was it online, or how did you do that?
Yeah, good question. I started teaching them in person initially. And I'd actually started those a little bit before I went full time. So I had a little bit more ramp up than just these past 3 years. I would teach them at my brokerage. I'd provide beer. I experimented around too, like having it at a public location, having it catered. But the most important thing is I was consistent. So I did it every month, even if I was trying something out. My first class, I maybe had 5 people there. But interestingly enough, I have sold all of those people homes at this point. It just wasn't right away. And I've had classes where I've had 20 people. I've had classes where I've had 1 or I've had none. Regardless of the attendance, I just keep doing it. So I still do that today.
Okay. If you have none, do you still teach the class?
No.
Just for practice?
Even if I have 1 though, there have been times where I'm like, oh gosh, do I really want to do this? But I do it. I will do it if there's someone there.
Yeah. Well, for that one person, you really have a chance to connect.
Yes,
it's meaningful
for sure.
for them.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So then did you go online with it once COVID hit?
Yeah, exactly. So COVID occurred. I couldn't teach my classes. And I was like, all right, let's switch to the online platform. For me personally, public speaking is terrifying. So honestly, it was preferred. I kind of get to hide behind this screen. So it was much more comfortable for me going online. We're actually going to be doing our first in-person class in May since COVID. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
So how do you get people to attend your class?
Yeah, good question. I have a group on Meetup, and I've got like 200 and some members in it. I also have an Eventbrite. I run an ad on Facebook, so I'll do, $50 or whatever a month as an ad. Otherwise, I kind of use it as like a pipeline tool. So every time I'm having a conversation with somebody or I meet someone new and they tell me that they rent, I say, oh, I teach these free classes every month. Come sometime. You'll get a beer or, we'll hang out, whatever. So I'm kind of constantly funneling traffic there because I book my classes out for the whole year.
Okay. That's pretty awesome. So it's something you can talk to people about through the sales process and invite them to just organically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. So why did you decide to start doing classes? What was the reason for getting into that method?
Yeah, so I went to a good college, and I've had great education through my upbringing. And yet, even to this day, I don't really use my degree. And I realized pretty quickly when I was in college, like, wow, just being out and running a business, I'm actually learning so much more than I am in this classroom. And I kind of started to get frustrated with the fact that we don't really teach anything about personal finances for people growing up. So that was the main motivation, is I think that when people know better, they do better. And I just saw this kind of gap. And a lot of new agents, this isn't a new thing, right? A lot of new agents go and teach these classes and do these home buyer seminars. But I kind of evolved to teaching house hacking and investing classes as well. But it was really just seeing this gap of there's not a ton of people out there that are really doing this, or at least at that time there weren't.
But there's a lot more now.
There's just so many resources online and books and, there's a lot of competition, if you will.
Right. Do you view it as competition, or
no?
Does it matter?
Yeah, I don't care. Like, come to the class or don't, it's your choice.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you consistently have people there, so that's really impressive.
Yeah.
So you mentioned there's another class you teach, investing and house hacking.
Yeah, house hacking is the other one. So I alternate months now. So I'll do a home buying 1 month, house hacking the next. Very, very passionate about that topic. That's how I've built my real estate portfolio.
Okay. Tell me more about that. When did you start investing in real estate?
Yeah, so I was 24 when I moved to Colorado, and I bought my first house after being here for about 8 months. I house hacked that house. So it was a 3-bed, 3 full bath. So I rented out the 2 other bedrooms. I experimented with Airbnb, long-term tenants, etc. But eventually that helped me save up enough money to go buy my second property. Plus I sold my painting business. So I had this kind of sum of cash there as well. So I was able to purchase a duplex for my second one, which I then, same thing, house hacked. And then that allowed me to buy my third property, which was another duplex. So very, very passionate about house hacking and helping people build wealth that way.
Nice. So the people listening to this show are probably real estate agents for the most part, and they might already know what house hacking is. But for people that are thinking, what is house hacking? Tell us what that is.
Super simple. Essentially, you purchase a property as a primary residence so that you get a lower interest rate. You put less down. You move into the house. Don't commit mortgage fraud, everyone. You've got to move into it. And then you rent out some portion of that property. So maybe it has an ADU. Maybe you just rent out all the bedrooms like I did. And then that helps offset your mortgage so that you're either living for free, making money every month, or your living expenses are reduced, which then helps you save up more money to go buy your next one, which again, you just buy as a primary, put as little down as you can, get a lower interest rate, etc. So you can just kind of keep doing that.
Kind of keep going and acquire properties that way.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome. So do you have a lot of people that attend the house hacking class?
Yeah, the house hacking is definitely more popular than the home buying. But oftentimes it's millennials and they're excited about investing. And then I ask the question of, well, do you even own right now? Okay, well, let's backtrack. Listen to this class, but then go ahead and come back to my home buying class so that we can help you get your first one.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Do you have some success stories from people that you've taught how to do this house hacking and then they've gone ahead and did it and had some good success with it?
Yeah, a lot. I have one client who buys a house on May 22nd every year. He's on his third property now, looking to buy his
Why
fourth.
that day?
Because that's the 1 year mark that he promised you, the lender, that he would live there for.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got another, people that found me on Google. I sold their home, helped them buy a duplex. They're now looking to buy their second duplex. There's a long list, honestly. I probably work with like 1 to 2 house hackers a month.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, cool. So what kinds of goals do you have personally with your investing?
Yeah, I'm pretty simple. Keep it simple, stupid is one of my logos. So I sat down. I don't know if other people are this weird. But when I was 24, I went and sat down in a coffee shop and kind of mapped out, what do I need to do within real estate to retire as soon as humanly possible? And I literally worked out, this is the amount that I need to have in assets based on the amortization schedules and me paying a little extra each month and whatever. This is how long it'll take me to pay them off. So my goal is to retire. I'm about 7 years out. I just want to pay these properties off and stop working.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And I imagine that passion comes through in your class and gets other people excited.
Yeah, and other people have other needs, too. A lot of people, I think, have family members they're taking care of, or they've got siblings they're involved with, or maybe they have kids of their own. So I think just that idea of having passive income is really inspiring for others.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think staying focused on your classes has been part of the reason why it's led to success, why you've built your business so fast?
I think it's been huge. I know a lot of other agents who have gone and taught a class and then they maybe will teach one more and then they just kind of let it go. So I think consistency is the answer. And then I've stayed that way with kind of these other layers that I've added in with my business too, with our website and social media and all those things.
Okay. So then, are you still doing them online, or are they in person now, or how are you doing?
Yeah, so they're all
in person in May.
Yeah, the first one that we'll do will be in person in May, and that'll be the house hacking class.
Okay. So for someone listening that's maybe overwhelmed thinking about putting on a class, what kind of advice would you give them to hold their first class?
Pick a date, right? Just pick a date. That's the date that you're going to do it. Find a location, get your advertisement made, and start advertising it. And magically, you will take all of the steps that you need to by the time the class happens for you to have a successful class. But if you just pick a date and then you want to work on your presentation first, there's not really pressure. So I think pick a date, get it advertised, get people committed, and then you'll be committed to getting your presentation done and getting prepped.
Yeah, it's like say yes first, and then everything magically comes together.
Yeah.
I've learned that too. I've said yes to teaching or speaking for other people, and had no idea what I was going to present. And you're right.
Yeah,
it just magically comes together.
Yeah.
What other kinds of roadblocks do people have when they're setting up a class and thinking about doing this, besides being particular about maybe putting together their PowerPoint, or what day? What other things?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of excuses that come up through the process. One is this feels dumb, or people aren't interested, or, this isn't going to work. Well, I'm sitting here telling you it does work. And so just go do it and it will work. Finding locations is a big one. I have agents on my team now who I coach to teach these classes. And one of the things we talk about is location. And, they want to have it at a bar or whatever because it's fun. But it's also really important that you choose an environment where people can actually hear you, like physically hear you, and they aren't distracted if you want to really have a return from the class. So I think kind of finding that balance of making it fun, making it you, but also keeping it professional. Other than that, if you have, the week of, you don't have a ton of RSVPs, you might be inclined to be like, oh, it's not worth it. But as I mentioned, I only had 5 people at my first class, and all of them have purchased properties with me. It took 3 years, right? But they all did. So even if you have one, just do it anyways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have one every class for a year and they all buy, that's 12 transactions.
Yeah. It's essentially a buyer consult. That's it.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So where are you holding your class in May? You mentioned having a venue that's fun yet professional where people can hear you.
Yeah, that's what we're working on this week, is picking out. The team just agreed last week that we're going to kind of do it as a team event. So I'm opening it up to them to drive traffic there. There's a location called Crooked Stave in the Highlands. So my assistant's husband actually is the manager there. So it's a brewery, it's nice, but it's not huge. So our class kind of takes up a good portion of the interior seating, so that it's not distracting.
Okay, gotcha. What day of the week are you doing it?
I usually do Wednesdays. So the third Wednesday of every month is what I shoot for.
Okay, and what time of day? I'm just trying to get a sense of how many people might be at the brewery at the same time.
Yeah, so for in-person, I usually do it at 6 or 6:30. For my online classes, I do those at 5:30 because I actually run ads on the East Coast, which is 7:30 their time. So you can kind of play around with that too. But for in-person, 6 or 6:30, so that people get off of work, they have enough time to run home, let the dog out, and then come on down.
Okay, nice. Do you ever have people that are at the venue and then they kind of morph over to your class and start listening, and then they become home buyers?
Yeah, all the time. And that's kind of the nice part about doing it in public, is you get to pick up some of those people, whereas online you don't.
Right. True. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I'm asking myself, it can't be just the classes. There has to be more to this. What else have you done that has led to your success? Do you have other marketing strategies that you use, or is it team building or processes, or what else is your secret sauce?
Yeah, I've got kind of a systematic way of going about things every week. So a couple of examples. I post on social media every day. So on our Instagram page, we have a post Monday to Friday every single day, and then corresponding stories that we design. I meet with 2 vendors, is what I call them, a week, because my business is 85% referral. So I'm really focused on my past clients and Sphere, and then vendors. So, lenders, out-of-state agents, contractors, anything like that. I have 2 of those meetings a week to foster relationships that will turn into referrals. I call them strategic hangouts. So I do 2 of those a week, which is basically looking at, who of my friends or who of my past clients or, whatever, who makes sense to spend time with this week or the following week. So I'm very particular about who I spend time with and when. So I kind of call that another formula, right? And then I have just normal friend time as well. But there's definitely people I try to get in front of intentionally at specific times. What other things? Our CRM, I try to add 10 people every single week. And then most of my activity is really Sphere past client driven. So that kind of looks like 4 to 5 touches a month for every single one of my past clients. So we do quarterly client events. I send out a monthly newsletter. I send boomerang postcards once a month, et cetera, but it's very focused on referrals.
Okay. Is your newsletter, is that by email?
Yes, through MailChimp.
Okay. Do you draft that up yourself and write it yourself?
I used to. Now I have my assistant. So we kind of work together on writing the blog posts because we write blog posts for every single home that we sell. We do a small business spotlight every month. We pick a new out-of-state referral agent every month. And then usually I have some sort of blog I've written with a market update at the top. So it's usually like 6 or 7 blogs that we've written in a month that we link in this newsletter. So we work together on writing those. She creates a draft of it, and then I review it before we send it out.
Okay. And do you get a really good, I mean, you said your business is mostly past clients. Is that repeat business, referrals, both?
Yeah, repeat and referral mostly. I've only been, this is my 4th year, so I'm just kind of now over the last year, I've started to get people that are trading up. And I think that that'll happen more. Obviously, that's normal for the life of a realtor, but
Sure.
It's mostly referrals.
Okay. All right. So any other words of advice for someone getting started? Since you're essentially kind of getting started yourself still.
Yeah.
You're inventing yourself.
No, just go read The Compound Effect, honestly, and apply it. I really can't recommend that book enough. Slow and steady over time. Be a good person. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Just do right by people, and that will end up sending you more business.
Yeah. And what I like about you too is you are yourself. Like being yourself, I think is such a key.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. And you're feeding into your own passion.
Yeah.
With how you market.
Yeah. So, that's a good point, RJ. Be yourself. That's a good one for newer agents. You're not going to appeal to everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah. And you can't do everything as far as marketing strategies and that kind of stuff. I mean, if you're someone might be listening to this and saying, there's no way I'm going to teach a class. Maybe that's not your thing. There's 200 different things that can build a person's business. We're just sharing one that's worked for you.
Yep, for sure.
So, yeah, absolutely. So what other, I'd like to ask you this too. You mentioned The Compound Effect. That's Darren Hardy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What other books have been influential for you? What other books would you recommend to read?
The 12-week year was huge. People get pumped to goal set. They set goals for a whole year, and then they're not really paying attention. So treating things as kind of like quarters. The 12-week year was huge. The 7 levels of communication I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
It's kind of an old school way of going about the real estate business, but I like that actually. It's a contact sport, this real estate business. So I really,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I took some good messages from that, especially in the way of like vendor meetings and how to set them up and facilitate relationships that way. So those have been great. And then just personally, The Miracle Morning, that one's been great as well.
Yeah. I used to teach a class about the 7 levels. I love that book.
Did you? Yeah, it's great.
Michael
It
Mayer.
really is really good. And even if I don't know, we're always just trying to get nuggets, right? Little bits of nuggets and information you can apply to your business. And that book is just full of them.
Yeah. Tell us what is 7 levels? What does that mean?
So essentially, it's been a while since I've read it, but it's like when you're bringing people in, they kind of start at a certain level and you're trying to work them up by building trust and relationship over time. Once you kind of get people to the top, these are your A players. They'll scream your name from the rooftops, etc. So it helps you kind of categorize and understand where are my people right now and what do I need to do to strengthen relationships with them.
Okay. And then in the book, they also talk about how much more effective face-to-face communication is. They have a triangle diagram as opposed to relying on email or direct mail or advertising.
It's like the passive and active forms of having conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of goes into, if you one analogy with the real estate business is buying leads versus cultivating leads, cultivating business.
Yeah.
It's a big difference.
Yep.
And there's a different level of connection with people that you know, like and trust you, or that refer people that they know, as opposed to a cold internet lead.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, if you could rewind the clock and go back and talk to yourself in 2019, right before you got started, what would you tell yourself?
Start out using a CRM because it is a pain trying to implement it now.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. Did you just start implementing your CRM?
Yeah, we are still not even fully using
wow.
it. It's wild.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. So, yeah, that would have been nice to do as I went, for sure. So, now, again, as I mentioned, it's a pain. Other things, I think I would have set stronger boundaries for sure. And that's easy to say now. You know, I'm selling 25 million. I have plenty of clients. When you're first starting, it's a little tougher to do that. You just need to kind of do what you need to do. But I would have been okay saying no or helping people understand we don't need to see 10 houses in a weekend. That's going to overwhelm you. Those kinds of things. Because I think with how fast I've grown, burnout is very real.
Yeah. Burnout can be a problem.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what CRM are you using, just out of curiosity?
Follow Up Boss.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. I'm familiar with that one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I used Contactually for a while, and I really liked that, but then they got bought out by Compass, and so now they're not available to consumers anymore.
Okay.
And I think that was my excuse, for not continuing with one.
Okay, I see. Yeah. I think I'm also a big database proponent, and I think whichever one it is, the one that you use is the best one.
Sure.
So even if it's, at a basic level, even your Outlook contact manager it's got its flaws and it's not as good as an actual CRM, but it's something at least instead of just using your phone.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, or a notepad.
Yeah. That works too.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, here's another philosophical question. If we were to fast forward 1 year from today and you look back on the year behind you, how would you define a successful year over the 12 months?
More days off.
Okay.
My team, really competent, making good decisions for other people. And for me, we've got some extended period of travel that we're kind of doing next year. So just making sure I've got all of my ducks in a row for that. So you might not have heard a production goal from me, and that is intentional. I am just kind of in maintenance mode. Life is good. I'd rather focus on getting my team up and going.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think in our line of work, people get too hung up on production goals, and there's more to it.
Yeah.
So that's great. And you told me off camera that you've been to 40 some countries. Is that right?
Yeah. I think somewhere between 43 to 45. I got to add up because we just went to a few in Africa. So I got to recount.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So you have goals to do more traveling, get to more countries, and
a lot.
That's part of your long-term plan, right?
Yeah. That's part of why I want to not have to work anymore. Yeah, I could just globetrot for the rest of my life for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Where is the next place you'd like to go?
I take a solo trip every year. My wife is very kind and lets me do that. So I like cold places. I went to Norway last year for 2 weeks. I was looking this year, I might do Iceland, or hit, kind of BC and Canada.
Okay.
But yeah, I just want some me time.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Sit in those or soak in those hot springs in Iceland.
Yeah, exactly.
Time. Yeah. Awesome.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. You're a breath of fresh air. I love how genuine you are and how you built your business. It's just awesome to see that kind of consistency, and I think that's a great message to put forth to our listeners.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I hope it helps someone.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will help many. So, well, you have a great rest of your day, Chelsea, and thank you again for joining us. And once again, my name is RJ Baxter with Intercap Lending. I just wanted to ask you that if you enjoyed this episode and you think it would help benefit someone else, to please share it to someone else you know in the business that could benefit from Chelsea's wisdom. And if you enjoyed the show, also consider giving us a 5-star review. That's how the word gets out. And thanks again for joining us. Thanks, Chelsea.
Yep, thanks.